Hey everybody, it's Savage Lands News coming in this time with a fellow Guardian player. We have been kind of meeting each other in the Brute Chat for a very long time, and we're very overdue for having him on the channel. You'll know him from crushing pro quests in his local area, and his most recent achievement, top 8ing in the largest calling we have ever had in Flesh and Blood history. This time on the Iceman himself, Oldhim. Let's give Randall a little bit of applause here for his incredible performance. How are you doing, Randall? How's your day going?
Doing quite well. Getting ready to start up RTN season.
I know it's a little too soon after Pro Tour season, man. I need a tiny
There's
break.
a break. You had, yeah.
It's rough. I'm getting in trouble with my fiance over all of this stuff. But you came in right off the back of one of the biggest accomplishments you can have in this game, right? Crushing a calling like that with 900 and something players is a feat. How are you feeling after that performance?
So to quote myself after the event to all my testing partners, thought it was pretty neat.
Pretty neat.
The thing was the mindset going into that entire event wasn't like, I never once like, all right, I made top 8. Like the entire time, just like playing the event, kind of just trying to redeem myself after just scrubbing out the Pro Tour. Ugh. So like the entire event, that's what I'm playing in, the shadow of just bombing out the Pro Tour and just trying to prove myself like I at least belonged in Baltimore that weekend.
Yeah.
So
I did not do very well in the Pro Tour myself. Failed draft, miserably failed draft. But what happened? So what happened to you in the Pro Tour, right? Like why do you think you were able to go from, not doing so well and then absolutely annihilating all of the competition in one day's time? Like what happened? What was the switch?
Yeah. So going into the event, I had the luxury of having 2 weeks off because of a change in my career. And so I had 2 weeks off to prepare for the event, and I played 12 plus hours a day for 2 weeks. Like my wife was about to murder me. Like that's how much Flesh and Blood I was playing going into this event. And it's probably the most prepared event. Like the exact 80 I played was locked in 2 weeks in advance. So I've got 12 hours a day for 2 weeks on the exact 80 I would play in the event. Like it was the level of fine tuning I was able to pull off was like absurd. Mm-hmm. So going in the Pro Tour, I fully expected to like 4 OCC that first day.
Yeah.
And then met by not that, just like broke me.
What were your matchups, right? Those first 4 games, what were they?
Yeah, so Pro Tour, the first one was a Lexi loss where I actually had them pummel locked. And the only way they're 1 health and they're locked out at a pummel and arsenal. It was very clear to them that I had the pummel and arsenal. Third time is swinging a hammer. They need to have exactly 2-3 blocks and at least 1-2 block or more to not die to that pummel. So they're giving me 3 cards every turn. The only way to break that cycle is Codex of Inertia.
Yep.
And all I've got to do is just find one cheap threat to attach this pummel to before they use that Codex of Inertia to get out of this lock. And they hit it in about 3 turns and like just enough. Yeah. Ugh. And then that one hurt. That one really hurt because I got navigated to the like end game that I'd practiced so many times. Like, all right, we're pretty good shape. Their outs are pretty small. I think they even only had one Codex of Inertia in the left in the deck. That one stung. And then we had a loss to Azalea the next round. Typical thing where you both get kind of low and then you're like, all right, I hope they don't blow me up this one turn. And they had it on that one turn. Yep. And then third game, we lost to a Dory. And then to close it out, I had an Oldhim that we won. So my one win in CC was in the Oldhim, but at least like I won that fairly convincingly.
Okay. And so do you think it was just maybe nerves or maybe a little bit of tilt from that first game that kind of changed your dynamic? That because you crushed the calling, right? So what do you think it was in those first couple of games that was different than the games you had at the calling, right?
The biggest thing was not believing in my own testing. You'll kind of see it in the deck tech as we get into it. But the play patterns and kind of the way I navigated the deck is not how a traditional Oldhim player plays the deck, and especially most people weren't playing it that weekend. A lot of them were playing a lot more defensively and had these like really intricate fatigue plans and everything else. Like my game plan from the get-go was just you're going to be bad at blocking and I'm going to kill you through damage, or you're going to be good at blocking and I'm going to kill you through fatigue because you're having to give me 3+ cards a turn and just kind of take advantage of Oldhim burning like 2.5 cards every turn cycle, opposed to everyone else burning 3.
Yeah.
So like that 15 to 20 deck size I have after the first cycle, just using that to just kind of bleed them out. And that was kind of the game plan. So
okay. I mean,
just didn't stick to it.
Yeah. Sometimes when you build this perfect game plan and then it comes to execution and you waver for like a second, you're like, no, I gotta change strategies. Yeah, that's the quickest way to get in your own head, right?
Yeah, I just didn't believe truly that I just didn't believe my own testing, and that's what literally ended my pro tour.
So you finish your pro tour, you drop, and you're like, okay, I'm going into the calling. Like, what did you do to prepare? How did you feel mentally going into the calling? Like, how did you bring yourself back into that competitive state?
Yeah, so walking out the convention center, luckily Elliot Vickers, one of my testing partners, who was also attending the pro tour, we were kind of discussing dinner plans, stuff like that. And he's like, well, what are you going to do for the calling tomorrow? I was like, I really thought about it. I'm like, maybe I'll just throw the Azalea and just have like a goofy calling day. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of thought about it for a second. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to sleep at night if I don't run back this exact same 80 in this calling and prove that like that 2 weeks of just hard work and dedication meant something. So I literally like text the rest of my testing partners on Discord, and I'm just like, fuck it, we're just running the same 80 and we're just going to crush everyone in the calling tomorrow. Like I'll send you a screenshot of the actual message. But yeah, like it was like I called the shot. Like I'm not messing around in the calling.
I love that. I mean, confidence is key, man. Confidence is key, right? I think I learned that myself during the pro tour, right? I didn't like what I drafted at the first pod, and I became my own worst enemy. I misplayed. I undervalued the cards in my hand. I didn't play to win, and I paid the price, right? And I spiraled. I got saltier and saltier and saltier, and then, you know what I mean? And then I just went into CC. I was I'm the best goddamn CC player in the planet, and I crushed it. And it's like all you need is that mental game. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Oh yeah, and the fun thing about that too is I think some people understand. Like I'm someone when it comes to playing like super competitively, like casually armored like that. I'm very friendly, polite, love cracking jokes, everything else. But like when something's on the line and I have to actually, be a competitor, like after we decide who goes first, and we actually draw our 4 cards, like I am dead silent unless it's relative to the game. And that's kind of the mind state like I was in that calling. Like there was no banter or anything. I was pleasant, but like I was there to just have you sign the match slip and then go to the next round.
Yeah, you were there to win. You were there to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for a moment, you in that first game you lost in the Pro Tour, you mentioned Codex of Inertia, right? I just want to take a second to say that card is the most ridiculous, stupid card in the game. I hate it more than Codex of Frailty. I cannot stand that card because you do the same. You were saying that you pummel lock them, like Rhinar. I call it Rhinar locking.
Yeah.
When you get them at like 3 health, they have to give you 2 cards every turn. Intimidate makes their block less good, whatever, and then you just waiting until you find a swing big or an alpha. That card just fixes their problem. It's just I'm no longer locked. Actually, you're locked. You lose the game. It's done.
Yeah.
So
and with Rhinar, it's extra painful, right? Because you do a good job of like clearing out all your non-6s, so you have as close as possible, 100% chance for those reckless swings, and then that nonsense happens.
Yeah, and it's always like a blue Recurromp that they manage to put in your arsenal, and it's like, cool, this is a dead card.
Yeah, the worst option. Yeah,
it's dead, and I am now useless. I can't block. You win. Oh, that card is so dumb. Okay, so you went into the Pro Tour. Your confidence was a little shook. You came back out, met with your teammates, put your mental game back on, and went right into the calling and crushed it. So that's quite the story, man. That's really cool. I saw you play personally, Wyatt. You played against one of my teammates. I was watching you guys play.
Yeah,
you were playing very well.
Yeah, that when we run through the matchups real quick because that game also is a fun story. So. Yeah, the matchups I had throughout the calling is we had a Azalea round 1, and then a Lexi, and then Tree Frog Dash.
Oh,
all these are wins. And then we played another Azalea, and then we ran into 2 Oldhims. We ran into both of those were all losses in the Swiss. There's the 2 Oldhims there. Okay. With the second Oldhim I lost to being David Lynn, and both of those games. Just like it's the only time in the entire event I think I just autopiloted incorrectly. David Lynn was running the Vambrace Anathos tech. And it was my first time playing someone who knew what they were doing with that tech.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of not making them always have the second card that costs 3 or more to turn on Anathos, like making them be able to pump it to 6 every single time instead of just 4. So that one's kind of got me up a knowledge gap. And then after that, and coming out of that, so I had to win the rest of the games to finish out the 8 rounds of Swiss on day 1. And we beat a Lexi and an Icelander the last round. And I'm only running AB1 in the list, so the Icelander game was a little scary.
Dude, I also cut all of my arcane barrier, and I ran into 2 Icelanders. What the heck?
Yeah. I decided like 2 weeks after the event, I'm like, Kano isn't real. Kano can't hurt me. We're just gonna run AB1.
That's what I said. Literally the same thing. I was like, you know what? Null Rune Hood. That's all I need. And then 2 Icelanders. But I can high roll higher than Oldhim can. So
yeah. Literally, we can high roll.
Yeah, literally, I high rolled both of them. I high rolled both of them out of the tournament. Yeah.
And then day 2, we ran through 2 Katsus, another Lexi, and then the one Riptide who was just absolutely tearing it up at the top tables.
Riptide's into
him. Yeah, and the funny about that one is I could thank the randos on Talishar for helping with the Riptide win. Because when I'm testing online on Talishar, I usually don't put a whole lot of stock in some of those games.
Yeah.
And I kept running into Riptide online for whatever reason. And I was like, all right, we're going to run like the hard mode challenge where like I'm never going to pitch a card that turns on Titan Fist, which in my list is like next to nothing.
Yeah.
Almost everything turns it on. And then we're basically like, I'm going to make sure I take 0 points of trap damage the entire game. And I would win these games, like just barely doing that challenge. And when I went to play this game, I'm like, let's just run Sledge into them and just damage fatigue them and like almost treat like the Oldhim mirror. And that's what we did. It was kind of funny because he's running Dreadbore and trying to punish me for D reactions. I'm like, there's not any D reacts in my deck other than Sync Belows. So
interesting. Yeah, I mean that makes sense because Riptide is actually, I think, undervalued by the community because I've seen a couple who are devastating, but if you know how to play around it like you do, right? Like Sledge just doesn't trigger any of the traps, so you're fine for the entire game just to sledge them to death, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Like if I had not had the experience going into that game, he would have gotten me. Like I'm pretty sure that's how he got most everyone. It's just an experience against Riptide, and he was a strong pilot as well.
Yeah. Riptide's traps are actually terrifying. Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and even then, I had to pitch track his last, the trap that prevents attacks gaining power.
Yep.
Because I purposely was blocking out with all my Rousey Agents because it's a dead card. I can't afford to be got by that card.
Yeah.
And then we had 1 pummel left in the deck, and I was like literally just waiting for him to watch him pitch that card. Because with the trench coat, right, I can't really know for sure what card he's sinking out of his arsenal.
Yeah.
So I'm literally having to wait until I actually can get eyes on that card and figure out where it's at in his deck. And then that's when we went in for like a pummel kill. But like the game was really tight because he played it really well.
Huh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a shocking thing. People see Riptide and are like, oh, it's easy win. Like that game was actually one of my scarier ones of the day.
Yeah, I think Riptide is good. I think it's just hard to play.
Yeah, it is.
And then what was after that?
The last round of Swiss was Justin, who you had on the channel on Rhinar.
My boy.
And I don't. I'm not sure. I have no idea if he knows who I am or not. But the funny about that is I saw the pairings. I'm like, I didn't know if like he was on Rhinar that day. And one of my testing partners and then also a local friend was sitting next to me. And they're like, oh, he's on Rhinar. And I'm like, okay. Like this poor human being. Because another friend of ours in the local area, Andrew Lorenz, who's like a phenomenal player that no one knows who he is, but he is like the end boss of the Atlanta area. Like he always does well at every major event, never like top 8 well, but like top 32. He's constantly has first really respectable performances, is always like qualifying everything off, like having high elo, just very consistent player. But me and him constantly go on about watching Rhinar versus Guardian games and how Guardian players just lose the game. Like it almost feels like watching him lose on purpose. Like, yeah, we constantly have this ongoing gag about that, like watching Guardian players like die with armor up against Rhinar and all this other stuff. And it's like, use
your armor.
Yeah, Rhinar is favored. yeah, Rhinar's favored into Guardian, but like the gap isn't that big. The gap just gets huge because Guardian players don't understand how Rhinar works. And like when you understand very clearly how the deck works, like it's a lot more even of a matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially Oldhim, like, I mean, Bravo can high roll you. Bravo can high roll any hero in the game. Doesn't really matter. But Oldhim, I think it's Rhinar favored, but I don't think it's like super favored. Like you can lose. You can lose easily.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Small mistake will cost you that game.
Yeah, because the big thing from the Oldhim side is that most Oldhim players don't realize is understanding the resource curve to stop Blood Rush Bellow turns, right?
Yeah.
Like it takes 7 damage or 7 resources to get off your 3 attacks on a turn, and like watching like a bad Oldhim player in the matchup, like block with Stalagmite when it has no way of actually earning a single point of additional damage is like just a waste. Yeah.
And ice reacting is super important in that matchup, like understanding when to do it and when not to do it. Because sometimes I'll get ice reacted and it's like, oh, cool, here's an alpha rampage. Like, you know?
Yeah, because I'm saying it's Justin. What was happening at one point in the game, I was ice reacting him. I thought it was a Blood Rush Bellow, the way he was like trying to sit on the card. So I thought he was trying to arsenal a Blood Rush Bellow or something just to try to get off like a 3-card Blood Rush Bellow.
Yeah.
And it ended up being Tome of Fendal, but I kept ice reacting it back up. And then eventually just rolled 6 on Scabs. And it was like, it was a disgusting turn. He rolled the 6 on Scabs, played the Tome out from Arsenal, gained all the life, and then drew into a Blood Rush Bellow, but led with a Savage Feast after a red barraging beatdown. Like, it was disgusting. Like, if it had been any other Oldhim player, like, they probably would have, like, literally lost the game on the spot there. But I saw him pitch a red barraging beatdown in the first turn. So I'm like, great. So I guess I get to like Arsenal Sync lose this game and not get to have as much fun. So I already had a Sync in Arsenal, like waiting for that beat down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I watched it happen. Yeah. So that was his first ever Rhinar appearance. So he did very well. But again, Rhinar is an intricate. Rhinar is surprisingly hard to play. You know that, right? Like there's a lot of micro decisions to make. Yeah.
Yeah, every turn you draw a hand, you're just like running the geometric calculator in your head. You're like, all right, what do we do with this?
Yeah. Is it worth it? Is the EV high enough? Should I roll Scabs? Do I block? That's all that stuff. So your final game was Rhinar, right? So were you worried? Because that is, it's this maybe unfavored matchup. You could get high roll. Were you worried at all? Or were you like, nah, man, as a brute player, I'm an advantage?
I honestly felt that he had a better shot of beating Michael Fang in the finals of the Pro Tour than he had of beating me in that matchup. Like that was the mindset I had. I don't know if I don't know how true that is, but that was how I felt about that matchup. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your confidence has to be high. You're going for the win, right? You're going for the kill, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's jump back a little bit in time, right? Let's talk about your journey to getting to this point, right? So where do you play out of? Like, what's your local community?
Yeah, so I'm in the Atlanta area. I actually live in like the metro Atlanta area. We don't have any game stores actually in the city, so it's a lot of like perimeter game stops we have to travel to.
Okay.
But local scene's fantastic. The bulk of the card guys are in our scene, and we have a ton of really good players as well who travel to a lot of events. Justin Evans, phenomenal player. He probably most notable time he was seen was on camera with Isaac Crute during Calling Indy last year. Okay. He's like one of the big developers of like that combo Viscerai deck.
Yeah.
Before Skeletor got banned. Yeah, he was like one of the big, like if you're on any Discord, you probably know Justin, and Justin probably knows you. He's that type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have Jeremy Chen. I did a deck tech with him on Dromai. College kid who just absolutely is brilliant. And if he had more time to play, he would probably be like one of the top 20 players in the world if he just had the time.
And we forgot to say this in the beginning of the video. So Randall has his own YouTube channel where he does content, tends to be like games and deck techs. You should check it out. It's Randall TCG. You can also follow him on Twitter at Randall TCG. He has some phenomenal content and was one of the first like Rhinar YouTube channels, I believe, right?
Yeah. I try not to just be just Rhinar at the time. Like I was trying to get out of that shell, but just kind of like got forced into it.
Yeah.
I love the hero. Like, yeah.
And so, okay, so we now we know we're based out of, right? How long have you been playing this game? Like since what set, I guess?
Yeah, so I actually remember the first weekend I played. I actually ordered the Monarch Blitz decks July 4th of 2021,
Rad.
and kind of expected just kind of get them playing as like a board game experience with my wife.
Mhm.
And we literally played them the entire weekend, like 3 days. We couldn't put them down. Like we had so
That's
much fun
awesome.
with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, and prior to this, like I was a big Magic player. I was like I guess a casually competitive Modern player.
Okay.
Like I would travel to like the SCG tour events and stuff like that. I never like, like I'm gonna try to win one. Like I would go and if I ever day two or something like that, I'd be ecstatic. But like that was the level I was at. Yeah. And then literally sold off my entire Magic collection 6 months later. Like we went super hard into the Fab. Yeah. Like yeah. So yeah, I went to RTN season. Like it was like a month after I had just finished putting my first CC deck together, which was Rhinar. I even just chose that hero because I bought a box of Welcome to Wraith and just played sealed with my wife to kind of like figure out the game. And I just thought he was like the coolest one of the original four. So that's like how I picked my first hero in the game and like cool. Got the list. And
that's cool. Rhinar is fun. My first hero was Levia because of the same thing. So I went to a game store, wanted to figure something out. They're like, try this game. I'd never played a card game before. They gave me like the Levia Blitz deck. And I was like, I'm in. This is cool. I can do this. It was so fun.
Oh yeah, those Monarch Blitz sets are so fun. Like crack them out occasionally, right, and play it. Yeah, it's a great entry point.
My fiance stomped me Levia versus Prism because I didn't really understand anything. I think we broke every rule in the game, but it was still fun.
Yeah, I never got to play Levia because that's the one my wife gravitated towards. Oh, cool. So like she was always like, I'll play Levia into whatever you're gonna play. So I never got to play with Levia at the start.
It was like almost destined because I think my first box I bought had a Doomsday in it, and I was like, I'm it. I'm full edgelord purple lady. Let's go. Yeah. So you picked Rhinar pretty early, right? Like he's like the first hero you picked. What about like Rhinar stood out to you? Was it just like the aesthetics, or was it the vibe of the class, or what was it?
I think it was a combination of the aesthetics and also how it played. I had a tendency of playing like way too fair decks in like modern Magic. Like Thoughtseize is a card in Magic. Like there's a style effects where they can interrupt their hand. I thought was cool. And even though Intimidate isn't directly like that, it was close enough. I'm like, that seems like So like basically it did a lot of the things that I enjoyed doing in Magic. And yeah, just kind of stuck with that because of that.
And then you went from Rhinar, you played him for a very long time, right? And then I know you kind of moved over to Guardian. So what was your thought process on that transition? How did you select your new hero?
So I actually collect like literally playsets of everything in the game. I play with everything in paper. But the issue is I enjoy the Rhinar so much. Sometimes it impedes my ability to like put more time into other heroes.
Yeah.
So every time like a new set comes out, like I'll test all the new stuff, like in paper with friends and stuff like that, and testing partners. And Justin Evans again was like, "Hey, this Starboard deck's cracked." Like even before it broke out at that battle hardened at the time, I'm like, no. And like so we sat down and played games, and he like literally just like stomped me into the ground every single game we played. And then that battle hardened happened where Starboard blew up, and we had a pro quest the following weekend, and I was like, all right, this might be too good.
Yeah, so it kind of was.
Yeah, that's how I got stuck into playing Bravo or Starboard that entire season. But anytime I didn't have something to compete for, I was still playing Rhinar, like trying to pretend that it was good enough, and it was okay.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it doesn't always work out with Rhinar. So you went into Starvo, and then now you're on Oldhim. So what was like what made you go to Oldhim of all of the heroes in this meta? Because a lot of long time standing Oldhim like OGs are a little nervous playing him right now. So what made you pick him?
So this ProQuest season of this year, I was in a weird spot. I was actually really big on Dash at the time. And keep in mind, this is pre Winter's Well being banned and Amulet of Ice, like that time period where Icelander and Oldhim were both like quite good.
Yeah.
But everyone's assuming going that ProQuest season that Dash was going to be the deck to beat. And like after like a week, that kind of fizzled out.
Yeah.
So I was big on Dash as well at the time. And literally the night before our first ProQuest in our local area, I decided that I couldn't pilot the Dash deck well enough against Oldhim to beat it. I was like, but I know that with all the Guardians I have in my area, I can play this really obscure club list that literally has no way of doing more than like 10 damage in a turn to beat everyone. And that's what I did. I literally threw the deck together like the night before, but I could do that because the deck didn't do anything super interesting. It was literally just a math deck. Like it was, I'm going to block 6 points of damage, and then when Tunic's on 3/8, they come in for 10 to 11 damage off 2 cards, and just like exploit that math against people who basically didn't want to block and wanted to have fun instead of like make the right play. And that's literally how I want to ProQuest. It's just being willing to make the boring right decision every single turn for like 20 turns.
I mean, that is the antithesis of even my version of Rhinar. It's the most, it's boring. I find it super fun, but it is literally do nothing, do Blood Rush, do nothing, do Blood Rush, right? That's kind of like a loop. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's so many fun, like small decisions like in between there. And I think some people don't understand that at times, right?
That's true.
I'm not one of those players who gets super excited about seeing these like crazy turns. Like they're neat, but also like I'm the type of person who's like, oh man, I can like sink below this, like this block 4 on this 4-power attack that has like an on-hit effect and like actually blow my opponent out because they took damage to be able to do this. Like those little small, like unique things like that, I get really excited about. So actually, playing these decks, I
agree. It's like one of my most prideful moments was at one of the pro quests that I took down this last season. I had a 21 value swing, and most of it was on the defensive side. It was like sink below, Oasis off Tunic, swing big. And I like, for some reason I was like, that's the sickest thing I've ever done. It's so boring, but it was literally perfect defense and offense in one turn, I just love that.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just nice to know other people also enjoy like the obscure little small stuff like that. That's not, I'm not the only crazy person who's into that.
Oh,
yeah. So I forgot that invite I got my pro tour invite off that calling in Indianapolis this year was about to happen. And this is the bands took place and that calling took place. And I should have just ran the same list into that calling. But once again, I was like, well, there's no way that like everyone's still going to be on Icelander and Oldhim going to that event. So like I pivoted to like a more traditional Rhinar list with claws and everything else. And then, lo and behold, that calling is like dominated at the top tables by Icelander and Oldhim.
It was pretty, it was a pretty fun calling, I think. Yeah. At that point I was testing a lot with my, like Justin Evans is like my like go-to person for Oldhim stuff because he's been playing it pretty much since Viscerai got like neutered. So that after that event, I was like, all right, start teaching me some Oldhim. And we had like a battle hardened in Charlotte after that. I played after like maybe 1 week of seriously picking up Oldhim. I think I had like an X3 finish, like top, not high enough to really matter, but it was respectable, right? Like X3 at like multiple, more than 8 rounds is decent. That's not bad.
Especially first time ever actually picking up the deck. But the play patterns are very similar. And I just remember like upsetting everyone I would talk to about Oldhim because I was playing the deck incorrectly to them. Because at the time I literally just took Michael Fang's list from the calling in New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
Because I would have picked his because his list had the most block 3s in it. And 3 blocks are higher than 2 blocks. And that's how my brute brain works. Is higher numbers better.
I love 3 block cards, man. They're my favorite.
Yeah. If you ever played like a ton of Rhinar, like non-Rhinar players don't get this, but like I have a deep-seated hatred for no blocks and 2 blocks. Like a card has to be insane. To not block for 3. You can run it.
Terrifies me. It terrifies me to put a 2 block in my deck. I don't know why, but it terrifies me.
So it's a list I copied as like the baseline when I first played that battle hardened, and then was talking with all these Guardian players, and they're like, "Oh, you're not activating Chrono Seeds enough." I'm like, "Well, shouldn't it just be used to like, fix a Bass hand and everything else?" Like, "Oh no, it's like use it for the damage prevention. Like, you're losing 1 point of value every time you don't, like activate Tunic for it and everything else. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, cool. I was trying to, I guess, learn their style and play these more defensive styles like Oldhim. Mm-hmm. And then we started testing with the new set that came out. I was like, why don't I just go back to this really disruptive style that all our locals were running during ProQuest season? Because like they were actually just like warping our local meta. Yeah. And that's basically what I did is I basically just took the idea of like having a disruptive Oldhim deck and just smashed it with that really like grindy Rhinar club style list. And just basically I played an Oldhim deck like a club Rhinar list is basically how this like entire deck functioned.
Just grinding them down into the floor, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And pitch stacking, like Rhinar is such a fantastic hero to learn good habits on because I remember talking with Oldhim players and Guardian players in general about, pitch stacking. Like all your blues are fantastic and like overvalued and do crazy, amazing things. Yeah. It's like pitching these crazy blues together isn't really pitch stacking. Opposed to like a Rhinar where you're like, I have to like play this really inefficient play, get this like valuable red in the bottom of my deck to get over this Blood Rush Pillow. Like it's not the same.
I got to get an Alpha Rampage and a barraging next to each other. I got to get a 6 next to my Reckless Wing. I got to, all of that crap, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when you're doing all these mental gymnastics playing Rhinar and then, these like pitch stacking, making sure you actually like have win conditions left in your deck to be able to close out a game, and you switch to a class that does that but easier, like it's almost like you're cheating. It really does.
I think it was you. I don't remember where I heard this. I think it was you, but you're like, playing Guardian after playing Rhinar is like it's like cheating. You're almost something exactly like that. You had said a quote like Oldhim is just easier, better Rhinar.
Yeah. Playing Rhinar is like literally like a training in like a weighted vest, and then like just taking that weighted vest off, and it's like, all right, cool. My cards do like obscure things. Like there's not a bad card in my deck now because
that was exactly it. Yeah, that was what your quote was. You're taking your weighted vest off and then just crushing your opponents on Oldhim.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're about to go into the list, everybody, so don't freak out. We're going to show it to you, right? So last couple questions, right? So you top-8'd a calling. What is your next goal as a competitive Flesh and Blood player?
So I think most people have the answer of like, I'd love to win a calling. Like, I just want to have an event where I play well every single round. Because I'm one of those people who constantly is like, what's wrong with my brain cells? Because like I can plan out games and just like not execute them well. And as silly as it sounds, like I just want to have one event where I play every single round and not just like just baking over the mistakes I made. So like I'm pretty sure I would win that event when it happens. That'd be cool. But the main goal is just kind of play at the level I know I'm capable of playing at for an entire event. I think that'd just be like a dream come true.
I think that's a really respectable answer. I like that answer. I do like that because you probably will win that event, right? Most likely. Only TCG luck will stop you if that's the truth.
Yeah, and I'm the type of person also as well. Like, if I ever win an event, like a giant event, I'm never gonna be like, oh, cool, like I'm done now. Like I peaked in happiness. Like I really enjoy the process of getting better at something, and like winning the event just means like you're the best person that day. Like. Tomorrow you're nothing. That's kind of the mindset I had about a lot of this stuff. Like, you won that event. Like you're the best at that time, but hey, tomorrow's a new day.
That's true. And then final question before we jump into the good, that Oldhim list. What's your opinion on the current state of Flesh and Blood, competitive Flesh and Blood? So the meta, the rotation of heroes, the living legend system, like how do you kind of feel about the current state of competitive Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, I think the current rate that heroes are living legend is fine. Like since they adjust the points, nothing's leaving like ridiculously fast. Nothing since Starbo has been absolutely bonkers. Like people currently collectively playing about Lexi. I personally have an issue with Voltaire. I've always in the entire issue of the game, I've had a problem with heroes and weapons glue go again onto anything. Like it's continued to be a problem, and that weapon just does that. Like the new Luminars got spoiled, and in my own head I'm like it's probably like a bad Voltaire, right? Because it gives go again to a specific type of card. They only get to do it once, but does it at instant speed. Like I think the TOA heroes just are
They're slowly phasing out of the game for a reason because I think they went a little wild during the Everfest TOA period, right? A lot of crazy cards came out in that time frame.
Yeah, and one thing also to show think about too is like the entire time period after Tales came out, where Oldhim was thought of just being like okay or just like just strictly a counter to Briar.
Mhm.
Because right, this is back when it had like Winter's Well,
Yep.
Pulse, like all these cards have since been
Reawakening.
banned.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like it's like people being upset about the Winter's Well ban and how Oldhim lost his identity. Like that's not really true. But also like it's a one-handed weapon that did 4 damage, which is already like insane. That was like the thing that shocked me the most switching to Oldhim after playing Rhinar. It's just like, you mean I get Ropping Club on a one-handed weapon, and my other hand weapon is a shield that can block anywhere between like 3 points of damage to like 10 points of damage. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, you're playing on hard mode, man. Romping Club, yeah.
Yeah.
Winter's Wail was a
Yeah.
a 1 card 5. Sometimes even more than that, because a
Yeah.
Frostbite really didn't always equate to 1. Sometimes it equated to like 3, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It comes to those math equations. My joke is with it, especially like for to like the Hamilton math, right? Like every hand does, it's all 3 powered attack, free blocks. It's a 12 power hand, right? Or 12 power per hand.
Yeah.
I like the joke that you can go with that math, and when it comes to Frostbites, we're playing like the ice expansion of the game, and like there's no telling what those are worth. Like it just depends.
Yeah. Kind of like frigid, kind of crazy card too, you know? Yeah. But so, okay. But you think it's pretty healthy right now. I would kind of agree. I would agree. I think Lexi's maybe not super fun to play against, but she's not crushing every event, right? It's not like Starvo.
Yeah. And Lexi is also pretty hard to pilot. Like the gap between a really good Lexi player and like your average Lexi player, it's
Huge.
probably one of the bigger ones currently in the game. Yeah.
Yeah. I had an argument in the purple Discord over Lexis that block are better. It's like if you play against a good Lexi,
Yes.
they're blocking you so much because they can. Because they know they can.
Yeah.
Right?
And the deck blocks really, really well. That's the thing too, right? Like the deck has no problem just giving you 9 block of cards every turn until it sees something it's worth like taking damage for.
Yep. It's crazy. She's so effective right now. Okay, so let's jump into your list. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Let's do it. All right, so we have your beautiful list in front of us. I will be putting the link in the description below, and we'll also be linking once again his YouTube channel. Go like and subscribe, and his Twitter. Go follow him. We'll be putting all of that in the description below. But you want to run us through? Is there any particular order actually you want to take us through the list? Equipment first. You want to jump into the deck? How you feeling?
So let's, I guess, go and cover the giant list of elemental cards in the list. We were running 6 whole ice cards and 3 whole earth cards.
Wow, that
and there's a
seems
pattern
low.
here. It's extremely low, and there's a pattern with all 9 of these elemental cards. They all say 3 in one of the corners,
Yes,
and that is a really good number.
Yeah, all of your elemental cards block 3. There is only 1 card in this deck.
2 blocks.
Wait, what's the other 2 blocks?
Yeah, Rouse and Pummel. Rouse and Pummel.
Duh.
That's it.
Pummel. Wow. So this is a very defensive Oldhim list, but I think interesting. I don't know anything about it, but looking at it, it's surprisingly aggressive looking for a defensive Oldhim list, right? You've got Pulverizes, the E-Strikes, the Endless Winters, the Crush Confidences, Spinal Crushes. Like this is kind of a heavy hitting list.
Yeah, so basically the way the list works is, and the way I played it is, you kind of take what your opponent gives you, right? Like if your opponent's presenting, say, 3 cards for 9 damage, and my hand does 10 damage off 3 cards, I have that flexibility. And if, like say I need to block an on hit and then, block with 2 cards and just come in with 2 cards, I can do that. But the thing also is the way you operate your arsenal in this deck is you always keep a piece of disruption.
No, sorry.
So the way you operate the arsenal in the deck is you always keep a piece of disruption in your arsenal and basically use it as like your like savings account for disruption when you need it. And basically you play a piece of disruption like a spinal or whatever, and you keep, like I say, a pummel in arsenal, and you just wait until you have like a tunic counter to either pummel a CNC or spinal crush or disable, because all those are 7 resources. That tunic makes it a nice, clean play off those cards. And yeah, just basically always keep a piece of disruption in your arsenal. And I'm not playing out that piece of disruption from my arsenal until I have another card to replace with it. So if I ever do brick on a hand, don't have something disruptive, then I'll play the arsenal out and just kind of wait until I can get something reloaded again.
Yeah, that's actually quite different to the way that most Oldhims play. And of course, somebody pulled out their leaf blower right outside my window right now. So we'll have to deal with that, of course. But most Oldhims do really aggressively use their tunic against Rhinar, or not their tunic, their crown of seeds, and then they really kind of look to cycle their deck as fast as possible. I like your strategy of there's something huge in my arsenal, you need to fear it, and I will replace it as soon as I'm done with it, right? I like that strategy. That's kind of cool. That stands out to me.
Yeah, and the nice thing too is with the ice cards, is I basically am using them as a block 3, or in the window where I can ice react and it does more than 3 points. That's it. But the fun thing about that play pattern is once you get past that first cycle and the way the deck's playing, like I said, most decks only have about 15 cards left in them after the first cycle because they're burning 3 cards a turn. You usually have 20 to 22. And then when your 20 to 22 cards are exactly these 3 earth cards or 6 ice cards and Terra Sunders, then you get to play out these channel fridges and really get to kind of punish them with these cards that normally don't get played at all first cycle. You just get to have these insane second cycles that most decks just can't play through.
That's actually kind of crazy, yeah. If your second cycle is literally setting up ice cards, channel fridges, Terra Sunders, Macho Grandes, all of those really just gross blues, that's a good game plan.
Yeah. And all you need is 1 pummel left in your deck to be able to bluff that every single turn as well. That's literally one of the keys to almost every one of your matchups currently is keep your third pummel somewhere, and then it doesn't matter if Arsenal or not. A lot of times good players understand there's 1 left and then just overblock every single time.
Make a mistake.
And you just that's how you get the damage fatigue. Yeah, and you just damage fatigue them.
Yeah. Make that mistake. You gotta make those Oldhim players show you the pummel. You can't pretend it's there. They have to show it to you. Unless you really have a good way out. You know what I mean? You got to have a way out if you're going to overblock. So in your weekend, what cards in this list would you say overperformed?
The Red Crush Confidence was actually insane. Like I said, this list is locked in 2 weeks out from the event. Mm-hmm. And I was huge on this card after Justin Evans, testing partner again, really set me onto it because it's perfect in Arsenal in the way that matchup was being played specifically that weekend because the Codex of Inertias were such a huge part of that matchup where you always wanted to, against Lexi, you always wanted to keep something cheap cost-wise in Arsenal just in case they hit you with the Codex of Inertia towards the end, and you had to play it out and not lose value. And Crush Confidence and Endless Winter, 2 of your probably best cards that are cheap. You can play it off, a single blue in hand. To kind of punish them from playing out that Codex of Inertia. And those are also, generally speaking, when they play out Codex of Inertia, they usually don't have an arsenal face up. They usually end that turn, right, with the Ponder token card face down. Yeah. So Crush Confidence was the perfect punish if they Codex of Inertia. Codex of Inertia you.
Yeah, it basically turns off their ability to flip, right? So it basically punishes them so they can't flip their arsenal, right? Basically the whole idea behind this card. And it's a 3 for 7, which is so nice.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for 3 for 7s. Mostly probably from playing Rhinar. Yeah, really nice. Late game also, it's just leaking that 1 point just adds up so much in the late game when you're trying to hit break points, right? With Rhinar trying to get them to 2, but in this deck 4 is kind of your magic number with the way I'm playing Pummel. 4 is kind of my lock, so to say.
Yeah, I always looked at Oldhim lists because I thought about playing him at one point in time, and I was putting my list together, and I was why don't these 3 for 7s ever get played? It just made no sense to me because it's this is a lot of damage with an on hit for 2 cards. Why doesn't this not see play? But I was told I was crazy as a Rhinar player, so I'm glad to see it in the list. Okay, so go ahead.
And it's fantastic with Terra Sunder. That's the thing. The 3-cost 7s line up perfectly with Terra Sunder. It is actually insane. If you ever get the luxury of being able to play a 4-card handout with the deck, which happens since you're disrupting them almost every turn. That one's just like nasty.
That's pretty disgusting. Were there any cards that underperformed now that you're looking at it in retrospect?
That's kind of the luxury of having a list that doesn't have anything spicy in it. Like I'm not running Art of War or any of these other things that make people feel smart. Everything blocks for 3 or is an above rate 2 block. So like the weakest card on the list, probably the blue staunch that's there just for the mirror. I run the deck at 37 blues. Blue staunch just comes in for the mirror to put me to 38. I'm bringing in 68 cards in the mirror, which is actually less than most Oldhims run in the mirror because the game plan is just damage fatigue them.
Yeah.
And pitch stack better.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the Oldhim mirror is kind of grindy, right? So you got to have some Oldhim tech. It is one of the harder matchups. It's weirdly one of the most fair, but also most difficult matchups for Oldhim, right? I've been told that.
I always been told that too, and then I started playing it and testing it, and I actually love the Oldhim mirror. Like it's probably my favorite matches to play now. Yeah. Because you have a handful of turns that matter the most, and the rest of it are kind of autopilot. So it's actually a very relaxing way to play out. But you also have these mini games. So like there's mini game of rouse the ancients in the Oldhim mirror, where if you ever try to rouse the ancients your opponent and don't have Tunic on 3 and you're playing Sledge, you can get blown out by an ice react because they put a card back and you don't have a way of actually paying for the Sledge if you don't have Tunic on 3. So you have this fun game of chicken where if you can figure out how many ice cards your Oldhim opponent's on, you can kind of cheat and try to be cheeky and get it in without having Tunic on 3. So that's like a fun mini game you have in there, and that's like probably the biggest mistake I see of like people who don't super in tune with the Oldhim mirror do, because getting blown out on one rouse the ancients is like lights out in the mirror because you lose. That's probably your best play because it's 15 damage, 7 on rouse, 6 on sledge, but you only lost 1 card out of your deck, and that's like the equivalent of like pulverize. Except for it's way easier to get off than pulverize. Yeah. So in the mirror, like some people talk about how the mirror can be very like draw dependent and not skill dependent. And when they say that, I'm assuming they mean if you happen to get off all 3 of your rouses and all 2 or 3 of your pulverizes, it's really hard to lose the mirror when that happens. But at the same time, like you have so many reds in your deck because you're going above 60 that pulverizing on the first cycle is really not that likely. And the same with rouse. So you're bringing in so many, like my list isn't that bad since I have so many attack action cards, but these really defensive lists really struggle to get off rouses consistently in the first cycle and even the second cycle because there's not enough high powered attacks to even stack with it.
Yeah, I've always thought of Oldhim as like one of the more fair mirrors because a lot of mirrors in this game are dictated by like who sees their power card first, but Oldhim, like his power cards do 14. So it's like it can't be that bad. The mirror seems like an absolute skill fest. I would say most of the time it seems like.
Yeah, it really is. And the fun thing too is I also had the perception before actually learning the deck that the mirror was like, oh, you're always going to run the time. All 3 of my Oldhim mirrors I played throughout the weekend we had 20 minutes left over and the game was over. Like
Oldhim players know how to play fast, man.
Yeah. At one point we were joking that we were like second cycle, like maybe 20 minutes into the game, because like I said, if both Oldhim players understand at least the basics of how the matchup plays out, you kind of get the autopilot a lot of the turns because you're just block 6 sledge until you have these handful of cards that have a lot of meaning in the matchup.
That makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. Oldhim is like a very skill intensive, but pretty fair. Like he might be a little overtuned because of some of the ice cards, but I've always thought of Oldhim players as like very talented when it comes to the mirror. Like I saw the post of that Oldhim finals where it's 36 sledges were thrown. Yeah. It's like, that's a lot of sledging, man. That's a lot of sledges.
Yeah. And like the thing I find really fun too about the mirror is like how much Tunic dictates like the power of your turns, right? Because the 1 card sledge when Tunic's on 3 a lot of times it's like your window to an arsenal, a card in the mirror.
Yep.
And yeah, like it's really fun watching like these I don't know, like people who understand the Oldhim mirror really well. It's really fun to like those matchups, like watching these really small interactions. It's probably really hard to watch as a fan if you don't understand the intricacies of what everything's going on. But like as a player, like it's probably the most satisfying matchups to play.
Yeah, I could see it. Do you think Tunic's overpowered?
I most people who don't think that at all. Like I think it's just like a center. Yeah, I guess it's so core to the game. But also like the heroes who need the most out of it are also the heroes who have like weird cost curves, right? Yeah. Like I can't imagine ever playing Brute without Tunic in the field, right? Like obviously there's matchups and like Blitz and stuff like that, right? Where hardened cross shots does the job.
Yeah.
But with so many like 2-cost cards and there's no way of like generating 4 resources in this game yet, like Tunic's kind of necessary for some of these heroes who have weird cost curves like Brute. So
yeah, I wish Rhinar got a chess piece that did something that interacted with resources or something a little bit, so we don't have to be so Tunic dependent. But it is a necessary evil, right? Can't claw off a blue without Tunic. You can't do it. So okay, so we kind of went over the overperforming cards. You didn't really have an underperforming card, and I liked your reasoning because everything blocks 3 and it does what it does, right? Like they're all good cards.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for people out there who maybe want to pick up this list?
Yeah. So the big thing is, I'm trying to think. Actually, I wish I would have had the sideboard separated. So the cards that are effectively in the sideboard, it's all. What's that?
Want me to pull up your list? We can switch to your list. Okay. Yeah, this one has a sideboard separated. Does it have matchup? It does have matchup. Wow, are these real matchups?
No, those are. Yeah, those are super useless. Like that, I haven't touched those from the template that I used, so it's way off.
That's my Rhinar list too. Every time I share my Rhinar list, they're like, "Why doesn't your sideboard guide have the right cards?" And it's like, "Oh, I forgot that those were there."
Yeah.
I do it all in my head at this point. Okay, so we have his list again in front of us. This time with the sideboard separated. So take a screenshot, those of you who are really trying to get this list mastered. So again, what tips would you give an aspiring Oldhim player who wants to pick up your list?
Yeah, so the big thing is talk about also how some of the stuff's used. Like Rampart, I only run Rampart against, it's at the bottom, it's in the sideboard. They're specifically against Dash, Dromai, and Dorinthia. And that's it. Everything else, we just kind of run the disruption package. And the reason for that is against Dash, it's just your most efficient way to block. Because you can have weird games where you actually can fatigue Dash if you make them block enough in the early game. And then Rampart kind of lets you get through that for that. So that's kind of like the use case for Rampart. It's not heavily utilized, which I know also is the almost exact opposite of everyone else coming out of that weekend. Because a lot of people are talking about cutting Stalagmite, and then you have me on the opposite end of the spectrum who's like, I could have cut Rampart technically in the calling and been okay.
Yeah. Yeah, only playing that one Tree Frog Dash, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only time. Yeah, using that Dorinthia in the Pro Tour is the only time it was used. So that was probably the least utilized card in the list.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't. So yeah, because if you don't have a lot of experience playing with Rampart, and that's like Crown Rampart utilizations kind of scared you away from being Oldhim. This list is a good way to kind of dip your toe in the Oldhim without having to learn all that math and everything else involving those play patterns. So it's I guess it's a really easy list to get into with Oldhim.
Yeah, it does. It actually is I like this list because, like you said, we like the number 3. And everything in this list totally makes sense to me. A lot of the time I look at Guardian list in particular, especially Bravo list, man. But I look at these lists and I'm like, what are all these things? And why are there so many bad cards in here? And all this kind of stuff. And then I look at your list and I'm like, well, yeah, I'd do that. It all makes sense to me.
Also, yeah, we run all the the blue cards that have 8 power, and then the one like spicy card is we need one. I like poppers and I like attacks that turn on Rousey Ancients. So like the one of blue buckling blow is like some people run a different card in that slot. I just ran buckling blow because it occasionally like it'll pitch a blue 2 tunic for 6 damage in the late game. Like it has a really niche use case that may show up, and that's it. Like I don't know. Like I don't want spicy cards. I just want like I want good floors. That's literally the theme of the deck. Like we have a really good floor.
Are you on the buckling below whatever card Oldhim list? Are you on that train right now, trying to break new horizons?
So I've been testing that, and I actually hate that game plan because while it does do decent into Lexi, because once you land that combo right, you take their cards. But here's the issue with that, and here's some fun math I did on that today. If you get one of the combo pieces, which is the combo is buckling blow red, and then buckle the blue that got printed, you have one of those pieces in arsenal. You're having to have 2 blues in hand, and then either a tunic counter or a 4th card to play out that combo. And you only have like a 70% chance of drawing into the 2 blues you need with like 37 blues, 38 blues.
Yeah.
So even if you draw the combo, you're only like 7% chance of actually having the 2 blues you need. And if you don't have those, then you're having to eat damage to keep one of those cards around to try again the next turn. And then also...
Can't you layer them on separate turns? Can't you do like buckling blow, hit, put in -1 counter, and then buckle on a later turn and crush their helmet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, as long as you have something big to attach the buckle to. Is the thing.
It's got to be beefy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because you just do 5 on the first one, and
you don't have on-demand dominate, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The buckle gives it dominate though.
The thing. That makes sense. That's why you'd want to time it. Okay. I was thinking Bravo for a second. I think I was like, why wouldn't you just do it?
Yeah. But the big thing that scared me about that combo was how much it impacted my Rousey Ancients power. Because you're adding 3 new cards to your deck that don't have power, and like a list like mine, I'd be looking to cut something like Channel Lake Frigid to not hurt the power level of Rousey Ancients. But then you lose like a phenomenal card second cycle and an Ice React. So for me, like the amount of power the deck loses in every other matchup, it wasn't worth like this trivial gain you gain against Lexi, because this list already makes Lexi block a ton anyway. And all it takes is like 1 to 2 turns of them being like kind of blocked out. And once you get them like sub 10 health and you're like say 20 from just them having to block out, like it's almost impossible for this deck to lose games once you get off to a good lead. Like it's really hard for them to come back. You just have too much disruption, and there's just too much to draw into to fight through. They literally have to have a giant turn in the first like 3 or 4 turns. To have a real chance in the matchup.
Yeah, makes sense. My friend who plays Oldhim was like, yeah, that combo is whack. Like he didn't like it at all either. So that makes sense. And I mean, you didn't drop a single game against Lexi. So
until top 8.
Until top 8. Oh no. Okay. I forgot. But what was that? Like your 5th game? So I think the variance of Lexi might have finally gotten to you a little. Okay.
We had a nasty draw.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they do 30-something damage on turn 2. Like, what do you do? You know?
Yeah.
Any other like closing thoughts on the list, or any tidbits that you want to touch on before we sign off?
Not so much really. The deck's fairly straightforward. Like I said, everything but the disables come in the mirror.
Okay.
For that, if you're really terrified of getting fatigue, you can include those. That's it. You just run Sledge in the mirror, and the game plan there basically is, like I said, you should be able to get off your Rousey Ancients more consistently than in the first cycle. And that kind of is the advantage you kind of use to leverage in the matchup.
That makes sense. Yeah, I really like your list, man. This is an Oldhim list that when I look at it, I'm like, this is cool. It makes sense to me. I might even try this thing, take it out for a spin, take my weight vest off, and see how I do. But everybody at home, once again, go follow his YouTube channel. I'll put it in the description below. Follow him on Twitter. He's a really cool guy, Rhinar player, so we gotta love him. That's just our jobs here, right? And yeah, I hope to see your name on another calling or nationals or something along those lines. And hopefully we don't play each other because that would be lame. But
Yeah,
maybe we
yeah. We
play each
got
other in the
Battle
finals,
Hard.
right?
Yeah, we got Battle Hard in Atlanta this August, so
Cool.
you definitely see me there. Yeah, it's literally like a walk away from me. So
That's perfect. I have one in California, so I'll be there. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. We'll see you
yeah,
later.
thanks for having me.
Hey, man. No, thank you. I appreciate it.